on a question, I believe 870, right? That
871. I have
871.
871.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we did 870. So we're talking about foreknowledge of the future in this item. And it's important, that's the last question of the item. So I'm going to ask Soraya to read the question, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. We'll talk a little bit what we discussed last week, and we conclude this item. Okay?
Okay.
Go ahead, Soraya.
Okay. 871. God knows everything, including whether people will succeed or fall or fail in a given trial. What is the purpose of this trial, since it shows God nothing that is not already known about these individuals? You might as well ask why God did not create humans perfect, or why human beings have to experience childhood before arriving at adulthood. The purpose of a trial is not to enlighten God regarding the merit of humankind. God knows exactly what they are worth, but to make human beings fully accountable for their behavior, since they have free will. People are free to choose between good and bad, and trials serve to tempt them or prove their resistance, leaving them all the merit for resisting it. Even though God knows well in advance whether they will succeed or not, out of divine justice, God cannot reward or punish them other than accounting to the actions they have committed, according to the actions they have committed. The same principle exists in the world of human beings, regardless of the qualifications of a given group of candidates or confidence in their successes. No grade can be granted until the proper test has been passed. This is the same as with a judge who can condemn only accused individuals for the crimes they have actually committed, and not on the presumption that they could or would commit a crime. The more we reflect on the consequences that would result from our knowledge of the future, the more clearly we see God's divine wisdom in hiding it from us. The certainty of good fortune in the future would make us lazy, while future despair would plunge us into this depression or discouragement. In both cases, our activities are paralyzed. This is why the future is shown to human beings only as a goal that they must reach through their own effort, without knowing the sequence of events that they will experience in obtaining it. The foreknowledge of all the events of their respective journeys would deprive them of their initiative and the use of their free will. They would submissively allow themselves to be led by the circumstances without any exercises of their faculties. When the success of something is certain, we no longer worry about it.
So when we talk about foreknowledge of the future, we mentioned last week, first we have to understand free will. We have free will. So the future, there is a future that depends on our decisions made today, and our free will make our choices and our destiny. Renato asked last week, how can God know the future if we have our free will? And I'm going to give the same example that I gave last week. For those that know how to play chess or have heard how chess is played, the players that are the masters, they know, according to any movement you make, they know 5-6 movements ahead what's going to happen. So they have the capacity of predicting the future of different alternatives of each movement that the opponent can make. So these are human beings, imperfect human beings with an exceptional intelligent ability for the game. Now you amplify this to God, and you understand that God knows the future independently of what choice we make, because on all the alternatives of our choices, God knows what's going to happen. God sees everything. God is perfect, is eternal. And so the understanding of how God knows the future, I think that's the best analogy that we can make. Again, analogy. And remembering, bringing a little bit to our level, the example I gave last week again, that I'm going to repeat. You go to the top of a mountain, you see a car coming, there's a big hole, and you predict that the car is going to fall into the hole. You are predicting the future of the car. But if the car breaks before it arrives at the hole, it doesn't reach the hole, and your prediction of the future is wrong. If nothing happens with the car and it continues, it will fall into the hole, and you did predict the future. So I think it is important to understand these concepts of predicting the future. The question here is, what is the purpose of the trial if God already knows? And the first is the spirits tell us that it's the same that you might as well ask, why did God not create humans perfect? And that's one of the first questions that anyone that comes to Spiritism after a certain point of studying in the beginning asks this question, right? Because that's the obvious question. Why do we have to go through all of this? Why didn't God make us perfect? And the answer is, if God created us perfect, we would have no merit in reaching perfection. And the idea is for us to acquire, through our knowledge, our moral and intellectual evolvement, the merits of one day becoming perfected spirits and working directly in connection with God as co-creators, not in the same level as God, of course, but in assisting God in the creation of the universe. But if we knew the future, again, at our stage, we're lazy. We don't want to make much effort. So if someone can do the job for us, we'll gladly take it. So if someone tells us what's going to happen in the future to us, so we stop trying. If it's a bad outcome, we stop doing what we're doing because it's useless. It's a bad outcome. If it's a good outcome, great. I'll just wait for it. I don't have to make any effort. Most of us are like this. Again, we have to talk of the general humanity. I'm not talking of exceptions. Maybe you think to yourself, I wouldn't. Great. If you reach that stage already, good for you. But we have to talk about humanity as a whole, and humanity in a world of trials and expiations, a world of trials and atonements. If they can, they won't make any effort. So that's why we are not allowed to know our future. And of course, because of our free will, we make choices that will define our future. Then the explanation from Kardec, he compares to a student in a school, right? That you learn, but you have to be tested to see if you really have learned, if you have acquired the knowledge. So we are learning as we go, and if we have, again, the certainty of the future, it will make us lazy or paralyzed, as Kardec tells us. And again, as we evolve and as we progress, we are going to learn more about the understanding of the future and how we can access the future without causing any harm to ourselves in the present. And we see sometimes this happening. We hear people talking about dreams that they had, that they came true. I remember when we had the tsunami, 12, 15 years ago, I don't remember exactly when, that we had someone in our group that
Yes,
dreamed
Danny.
about, he dreamed
It
about
was
it
Danny.
like 1 week
Yes,
before it happened, right? And
yes,
exactly
yes.
how it
I
was going to
remember.
happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
So it was a prediction of the future, and this is a future that cannot be prevented, right? A tsunami. The only thing that you can prevent is maybe if you know someone there to advise them to leave or something like that. But there is always reasons for us to have the ability to see glimpses of the future if it's for our own benefit, if it will help us grow, to give us an opportunity of a different learning, a different understanding. But in general, it serves us no good knowing about the future. Normally, most of us would really like to go to psychics and see if we're going to win the lottery or marry a rich guy or girl or something like that. And that's really not very useful to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
I look at this our experience here on this planet, that it's like you've always told us. Or is it Elmo? I don't know. But this is like a school, right? If you want a good future, you can plan it, right? Or wait a minute, I better not say plan. Julio's around here. That this life is a school. So the best way we can try to get to a point of living a good life, not knowing the future, but at least directing yourself to do something good. Go to school, right? And if you don't pass, then you have to take it over again. So life is like this. If you don't succeed in doing what our Christ has taught us, to be indulgent, to forgive, all the virtues, we're going to find ourselves in a deeper situation, a not happy life. So we can to a point do certain things in our lives that can lead us at least to do a good thing and live a fairly good life, but for the future. So we go to school for the future. That's about how far we can go in detecting what the future is going to bring us. Other than that, that's only God knows, like you just clearly explained. Go to school. This is a school. We're on Earth, planet Earth, and if we don't do what we should be doing, more or less, you can figure out. Well, if we understand what Spiritism has taught us, follow Jesus' his precepts, then you can't lose to a point. Whatever's going to come will come, but help yourself and be responsible for ourselves as far as I could see.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else? Okay, no other comments. So what we have next is a theoretical explanation of the motive behind human action, and this is a very long question. It's not really a question; it's an explanation by Kardec.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We are going to divide in 3 parts. I'll ask Zoraida to read, and then we'll stop, because it actually covers the 3 topics that we discussed, which is free will, fatalism, and then foreknowledge of the future. So
okay.
Go ahead, Zoraida, and I'll tell you when to stop.
You tell me when to stop. Okay. We may summarize the question of free will as follows. Human beings are not inevitably led into evil. Their acts are not predestined, and the crimes they commit are not the result of any sort of destiny. They may have chosen, as a trial or form of repentance, a life in which they will be tempted to do wrong, either because of the surroundings in which they are placed or through circumstances that occur, but they always have their free will in determining their actions. Spirits therefore exercise free will in the spirit life by choosing their next life and trials to complete, and human beings exercise free will by leveraging their power of yielding to or resisting the temptations to which they have voluntarily subjected themselves. The purpose of education is to fight these wicked propensities, a duty that it will only be able to fulfill thoroughly when it is based on a deeper and truer knowledge of the moral nature of human beings. By knowing the laws governing the moral nature of humankind, we can modify it, as we already modify intelligence by education and physical health by hygiene. Every spirit chooses its future physical life according to its degree of purification at the time they are wandering and free from matter. The spirit is free to make this choice, as we have previously pointed out, based on its free will. This free will is not lost through incarnation. If an incarnate spirit yields to the influence of matter, it succumbs in the trial it has chosen for itself. However, the spirit can call out for God's guidance and the support of good spirits for strength and assistance. Without free will, there would be neither guilt in doing wrong nor merit in doing right. This concept is so well recognized that the world always assigns blame or praise of any deed to the intention, that is, the will of a person committing the act, with will simply being another word for freedom. People cannot blame their wrongs on their bodies without abandoning their reason and condition as human beings, which would place them on the same level as wild animals. If they could do so with regard to what is wrong, they would have to do the same for what is right. Whenever individuals do right, they can claim this merit and would never think of attributing it to their bodies, which proves that they instinctively refuse to renounce the most remarkable privilege of their species, the freedom of thought.
Okay.
Okay.
So we go back to free will that we discussed a couple of weeks ago. And we go back to the explanation that free will, we all develop free will since our beginning of our journey as individual spirits. Of course, as we evolve, we acquire more free will. The free will in the beginning is very basic. It's really almost just choices, but that we are going to make on how to survive using the little intelligence we have to defend ourselves from the environment and procreate, feed ourselves, and defend our loved ones. But as we continue to evolve, we continue to acquire more free will or achieve more free will that will make us always choose on the moral aspect what we are going to do. We are always free to make our choices according to our moral knowledge. And again, when we discuss fatalism next, we are going to be reminded that fatalism exists for the physical body, not for the moral aspect. So with our free will, we make our choices. As we evolve, we try to make better choices for ourselves, but remembering always that the more we know, the more responsible we are. So when you are in the very beginning of the evolution, that you basically know very little, you are not really much responsible for your actions, because they are a result of almost instinct and very little free will or intelligence. We evolve, as Julio explains to us, we evolve by learning from our mistakes. We create karmas for ourselves or consequences for ourselves when we repeat those mistakes. Because when you make a mistake because you don't know what you are doing, you don't create any karma for you. When you make a mistake already knowing what you are doing, that's when we create consequences. And we know that we just have to look at our present life And there are many mistakes that we made that we know we knew better. We shouldn't. And those are the ones that are going to create consequences. Those are the ones that are going to create what the Eastern religions call karma. But then Kardec talks a little bit about when we are in the errant state, when we are in the spiritual world. And it's important to remember, first, a spirit can only participate in the reincarnation project, not to call it planning, Julio.
Don't say planning.
If the spirit
I am
is
listening.
Yeah. Okay.
If the spirit is aware of reincarnation, right? Because like Kardec says here, it gives us the impression that all spirits can participate in the reincarnation project. So, do we allow a 6-year-old child to choose what classes they are going to take in school? Of course not, right? We choose for them. That's us in the spiritual world when we know very little. We have the spirits that take care of ourselves, that are responsible for our reincarnation process, and they are the ones that are going to choose the challenges, the trials, and the expiations we will have to go through. Now, at this stage of our evolution, and I'm going to say all 25 of us that are here, that have knowledge of the spiritual world, understanding of the process of reincarnation, and the ability of making choices for ourselves, when we go back to the spiritual world and we are preparing ourselves for our next reincarnation, we will be able to participate. We will be able to make our choices. Of course, always guided and directed by the spirits, because without that, we are going to make more mistakes than we should. Because when we are on the other side, we very easily think that we can do better, we can do more. Like a student in the first year of college, that they think that they can do 12 subjects at once. And then the counselor tell them, listen, why don't you start with 5 or 6 and see how it goes? And then they soon discover that not even 5 or 6 they can deal with. They end up dropping 1. So, of course, when we are on the other side, we think we can do better than we actually can, because things happen in our lives. And when we face challenges, we sometimes fail to recognize the opportunity to learn and to grow. And we end up causing ourselves more difficulties than we should. So we choose our future physical life according to our degree of purification, and we come here and we then don't remember, and we have our free will to act and to make our own choices, because the merit is by making the right choices. And why free will is important? Because without free will, there will be neither guilt in doing wrong nor merit in doing right, right?
João?
Yes.
Can I make a question? It's Mariana.
Yeah.
When you say about like the reincarnation process, when we are able to participate, I'm just thinking that more evolved spirits, some of them, they don't believe in reincarnation. Like a lot of them, they don't believe in reincarnation. So do you think it's a important factor to be part of your reincarnation process, or it's something more related to your evolvement level?
It's your moral evolution is more important than your intellectual evolution, right?
Yeah, beliefs than your beliefs. Yeah.
So a more evolved spirit, morally more evolved spirit, they are going to be placed, if they don't believe in reincarnation or they are not interested in participating in their reincarnation process for some reason, they are going to be placed by the spirits in the best possible place for them to make use of their advanced moral qualities. So you think of a Mother Teresa, for instance. I would believe that she chose where she was going to be born and chose the life she was going to lead. But maybe not, we don't know. But of course, she was placed where she could be of use for all of us, humankind, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, the fact that we participate or not, it's not crucial to our development, because the spirits know what they're doing better than us. But you know, we like to be part of our future, right? We normally we like to know where we're going to. So that's why we are always we always want to know about the future, right? We just study foreknowledge of the future. So most of us, I believe, if we have the opportunity, we will be involved. But again, free will applies here, applies there. If you don't want to be involved and you want to leave to the spirits because you think that they are going to be to make better choices for you, we can. Right?
Okay. Thank you.
So, you know, again, free will is important because we have to evolve through our own merits. And without free will, we have no merit. If someone makes if someone goes and do a test in college for you, what's your merit? Cheating?
None at all. None at all.
So in the end, we will have to be responsible for our actions, because it works both ways. When we do something that we can feel proud of ourselves, and proud here in the good sense of it, we will, because we did a job well done. It's part of our learning and evolutionary process to do our job and to evolve. So I think that's why free will is so important. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Renato's not here today, so no questions.
Renato's not there. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we continue.
We continue.
Okay. Fatalism, as commonly understood, assumes a prior and binding predestination of all the events of human life, regardless of their importance. If this were true, people would be machines without a will of their own. What would be the purpose of intelligence if it were always overruled in all its action by the power of destiny? This destroys any sense of moral freedom. There would be no such thing as human accountability, and consequently, there would be no distinction between good and evil, or virtue and crime. God, who is supremely just, could not punish people for faults that they were forced to commit, nor could they be rewarded for virtues that they do not merit. This would contradict the law of progress, because humans would not be motivated to improve their position, since their actions could make it neither better nor worse. Fatalism, however, is not a meaningless word. It really exists with regard to the position held by all human beings on earth and the roles they fill. Fatalism is the consequences of the type of existence their spirits choose as a trial, repentance, or mission. They are subjected to the digressions of life they have chosen, in addition to the intrinsic temptations, good or bad. This is where fatalism ends, because human will determine if they yield to those temptations or not. The details of events depend on the circumstances that human beings cause by their actions, and they may be influenced by the good or bad thoughts suggested by spirits. Therefore, Fatalism exists in the events that occur because they are the consequences of the choice made by our spirit in what type of existence to live. However, there can be no fatalism in the results of those events because human beings can often modify their results by using their own judgment. Therefore, there is no fatalism with regard to the acts of our moral life. People are victims of an absolute and inescapable destiny only at the time of death. They can neither avoid the fate determining the length of their lives, nor avoid the kind of death that is destined for them.
Okay.
Okay.
So we are back to fatalism.
Fatalism.
Okay. Yes. First, let us remind ourselves of what we have studied and what I briefly mentioned earlier. Fatalism, as they say here, it exists and exists with regard to the position held by all human beings on earth and the roles they fill. Fatalism is a consequence of the type of existence their spirits chose as a trial, repentance, or mission. But, as they say later here, there is no fatalism with regard to the acts of our moral life. And that's the main distinction we have to remember. So, death of the physical body is a fatalism. It's going to happen to every one of us. The circumstances of the death of the physical body is also determined, but even that can be changed. Nobody is supposed to come here and commit suicide. So if you commit suicide, you are changing the existence of your physical life, and there is no fatalism in an act of committing suicide because suicide is a moral choice. No one is coming to the spirit, to the physical world with the predisposition or the intention of committing suicide. But what happens is that those that have committed suicide in previous incarnations, they have to overcome the temptations of committing suicide. So they will have to face situations in where they will be tempted to commit suicide, and they have to overcome these situations. Fatalism exists in the sense that if we are going to suppose to go through a physical disease that is consequence of karma that we created ourselves in the previous incarnation. Let's say we died of, we were alcoholics in the previous incarnation, died of cirrhosis, and then we have a bad liver in this incarnation, disease of the liver that is related to our previous existence. That's something that we have to overcome in this incarnation. That is fatalism. But the choices we make with on the moral aspect of our lives, there is no fatalism in that. It's our choices always, and we will create consequences for our actions. Okay. Any questions, comments? Was that, it's very important here for us because fatalism is something that creates a lot of doubts in people. People that are new to Spiritism normally have these conflicts in understanding the difference between the physical body and the spiritual body, the physical trials, the moral trials, and in this part, Kardec covers very well, reminding us that fatalism exists. It's something that it's going to happen in our physical lives that we will have to go through one way or the other. And again, sometimes you come, I remember that story that Chico once told about this guy that was a very good person that did a lot of good, helped a lot of people, dedicated his life to be of assistance to others. And sometime later in life, he had an accident and lost a finger. And he went to Chico, and he asked Chico, to explain why he would have to go through such a difficult experience if he thought, he thought he'd led a good life. And Chico told him, listen, this is your merit, because you, in this existence, you were supposed to lose the whole arm. So because of the good work that you did, the only little thing that was left was for you to lose just a finger. That wouldn't prevent very much for you to continue doing the wonderful work you were doing. So it's a fatalism that he had to go through, but a modified one, based on his merit, based on his achievements, right? And we can talk about Chico himself, right? That according to what we heard, gained 20 years of extra life because of the work that he was doing. He was supposed to go back to the spiritual world 20 years before, apparently. And I'm sure, I haven't heard anything, but I'm sure Divaldo is also in this category because of the work that he has been doing. Actually, Divaldo had a throat cancer when he was younger, and he received treatment by Sister Sheila from Chico, and in Chico Xavier's house, and he was told that as long as he continued using his throat to disseminate good, he would never have a problem again. And he never had any problem. He never lost his voice. He's 93 and never lost his voice again in all these years. So who made the changes to your destiny? He made the changes to his own destiny. So it's important for us to see both sides of fatalism, right? You come here supposed to live 70 years, and then you start smoking 2 packs a day, and you die of lung cancer at 50. It's not the fault of the spirits, right? Whose fault it is, right? You cut your life short by 20 years because of your free will, of your choices. So it's important for us to fully understand fatalism in all its aspects, right? Anyone? Any questions? Everybody's so quiet today. Mariana, yes.
Yeah, I have a question, João. So fatalism, can I say that is a physical trial when I am incarnated? So it's something that I have to go through to improve myself, or?
Yes.
Yes, this is the meaning of fatalism.
Yes, it applies to your physical life, not more to your moral life.
No moral.
Yes.
But it's related to your moral, right? Something that you've done before, or something that you need to go through for repentance or mission or something like that? Can I?
Yeah, it can be consequences of wrong moral choices you made in previous incarnations, right?
Okay, this is what I'm thinking. Okay.
Yeah, when you kill someone, right, you are creating a karma for you. But the killing itself is a moral choice. You know what you're doing. So if you kill someone, you are going to create a consequence. And that consequence will happen in a physical existence, in an incarnation. Of course, there is a whole lot of things that can happen in the spiritual world also, in terms of obsession, persecutions of one spirit to another, and it's a whole different story, right? But the fatalism doesn't happen there. It happens here in the physical world. Yes, and it are things that happen on your incarnation as a physical being, right? Things that you go through on your physical body that will have you have to learn through it. Resignation, patience, faith, understanding, all these things are opportunities that will happen in our physical lives.
Okay, to improve your moral side.
Exactly, always.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Anyone
We have
else?
a question on the chat, João.
I have a question in the chat. Where is the chat?
Yep.
Okay. One message. How do you know when what part of my life is fatalism, chosen by me, or result of any change I did due to a temptation? Okay, let me think about that. Again, I'll read again. How do I know what part of my life is fatalism, chosen by me, or result of any change I did to temptation? Well, we don't really know. Everything that we go through is an opportunity for us to improve. Now, when we talk here, when the spirits talk about trial, repentance, or mission, there are three things that fatalism is linked to, right? So everything that we have to go through our physical life as part of a trial means that is not a consequence of something that happened previously. It's for us to learn for some things that we ask sometimes so we can learn resignation, we can learn faith, we can learn how to be of assistance to others, patience. Things that happen because of expiation or atonement, the spirits actually, they tell us, look at ourselves, analyze ourselves, and if we really look deep at ourselves, we will know if what we are going through is consequence of something that we did to ourselves in this life or in a previous life. But I know it's not that easy. Sometimes things happen to us, we have no idea. But, I think that the important question that we have to ask ourselves, and it's the one that Elmo always tells us, is to ask what for?
Why?
Not why.
Why?
So things are happening to us. What can I learn from it? What are the lessons that are in there for me in this experience? And again, we are all going through a very interesting, challenging experience. Let us ask ourselves, what for? Why? Not why humanity is going through this, but what for? What's going on? What can we learn from this? Divaldo was talking on this Tuesday about it again, and he was saying that we have to follow all the instructions to better protect ourselves. This is our duty. Our duty is to preserve our physical body to the best of our abilities. But if something happens to us or to someone that we love, we have to understand that this is a temporary habitation. We all go back to the spiritual world, and those that are going back to the spiritual world through this crisis are being received with special care because they overcame a very difficult challenge that was to go through this disease that is causing a lot of pain, and they are being helped and assisted on the other side. So I think we shouldn't be trying that much hard to find if what's happening to us is a trial, it's a repentance, or unlikely it's a mission. I don't believe there are missionaries here, but we all have our personal missions that we have to go through. But more important, we have to ask ourselves, what can we learn from it? I think that's the important part of it.
May I, João?
Yes.
Sorry to intrude, but I've studied this week, and actually it was part of my class yesterday. I would like to add a little something to your answer. In in o Evangelho segundo o Espiritismo, how do you say that in English?
Gospel according to Spiritism.
Okay. Chapter 5, Kardec and the spirits, of course, they talk extensively about exactly the point of that question. The things we suffer in life, they can come from two origins. They can be from, somewhere else, or from what we do here. And he goes on chapter 5 extensively about this. And in the end, he tells us, ask yourself coldly your consciences. And, remember step by step, if you can identify the origin of whatever happened to you, and verify if you cannot say, if I had done something different or not done something, wouldn't I be in a better situation? And I think what this particular part of this book tells us is that it's not only productive in the sense that we can identify the origin of something that we are suffering or we are hurting, but we can learn from that in order not to do it again, so that in a few years ahead, when we do this process, we can say, well, whatever is happening to me now is not a direct consequence of something bad I did a few years back. Sorry to intrude, but I thought it had a lot to do with it.
No, it's very good. It's good that you brought the gospel to it, because it's an opportunity. What's the chapter again, Leon? So people can go there and look for it after.
Chapter 5, item 4 in the Brazilian version, but I think it holds.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, the translations follow the version, the French version and the Brazilian version. Okay, thanks. Anyone else?
Okay.
Okay, so let's finish this.
Okay.
To the end.
Yes. Okay. According to common belief, human beings derive all their instincts from themselves. These instincts proceed from their physical bodies, for which they are not responsible, or from their own nature, which will provide them with an equally valid excuse for their imperfections. If such were the case, they could rightly claim that it is through no choice of their own that they are what they are. Spiritism is more moral. It admits the free will for humans in all its fullness, and in telling them that they yield to a vile suggestion made by another spirit when they do wrong, it makes them fully accountable for their actions. It recognizes their ability to resist contemplative suggestions, which is easier than fighting their inherent nature. Accordingly, Spiritist theory dictates that no temptation is irresistible. People can always ignore the invisible voice addressing their inner consciousness just as easily as they can ignore a human voice. They can always withdraw from the suggestions tempting them to do wrong by exerting their will against the temptation. They can ask God to give them the necessary strength and call out to good spirits for help. This is what Jesus taught us in the Lord's Prayer when he told us to recite, "And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." This theory of the cause of human action is the natural conclusion of all the teachings the spirits offer now. It is not only sublime in terms of morality, it also greatly enhances the self-respect of human beings. It shows them that they are as free to escape the shackles of an obsessor as they are to choose the doors to their houses to unwelcome intrusions. They are not machines powered by an impulse that is independent of their will. Rather, they are beings capable of reasoning and possess the power to listen, to compare, and to choose freely between two different suggestions or recommendations. We should add that individuals are not deprived of their initiative when receiving advice. What they do is of their own volition because they are still spirits, although incarnate in a physical envelope. And as human beings, they still maintain the good and bad qualities they possess as spirits. The faults that we commit are rooted in the imperfection of our spirit, which has not yet developed the moral superiority it will acquire over the course of time. Despite this fact, the spirit is still in full possession of its free will. The purpose of corporeal life is to purge all the imperfections of our spirit through the trials we endure. It is precisely these imperfections that weaken us and make us vulnerable to the influence of imperfect spirits. They take advantage of our weaknesses when they try to make us fail in our tasks. If we are victorious in the struggle, our spirit is elevated. If we fail, our spirit remains as it was, no better and no worse. However, the unsuccessful attempt will give way to a new attempt, which is a repetition of the same trial that may delay our advancement for a very long period. As we improve, our weakness diminishes, and we give less and less power to those who would tempt us to wrongdoing. As our moral strength increases constantly, low-order spirits cease to act upon us. All incarnate spirits, whether good or bad, make up the human race. As our planet is one of the most backward worlds in the universe, there are more bad spirits than good spirits, and perversity is widespread. We must do our utmost not to have to return to this world after our present sojourn, and to deserve admission into higher world, one of those privileged worlds where goodness reigns, and where, once we get there, our time in this lower world will only be a brief, vague memory.
Okay, remember that was Kardec that wrote this. Okay, this comes from Kardec himself. So the notion of leaving this world and going to a better world, we know it's possible, but it's not likely. Normally we reincarnate several times here on this planet. We've been incarnating here for many, many incarnations, and we'll continue to do so. Not because necessarily we need to be here, but because our loved ones are all here, and we want to be close to them. We want to help them if we can, or be helped by them if they can help us. So the idea of going to a different world when we are evolving, it's not something that we are probably going to entertain the idea. It can happen. We can go, and again, if you remember the book Renunciation, Alcyone came from a more evolved planet, right, to help her loved one here on this planet. It's a beautiful book by Emmanuel. But going back to what Kardec is telling us here, according to the common belief, we make decisions based on our instincts that belong to our physical body. And Spiritism comes and tells us, no, the spirits are the one that makes the choice. The physical body has its instincts that are a result of the evolution, right? Your heart beats, there's our automatic functions of the body that are a result of evolution of many incarnations and different stages of evolution. And then you have the instincts, meaning your reactions to things that happen to us, right? If you see, like they say, if you see a bear, your first reaction, the instinct will make you run away, right? When they say that the best option is to stay put, right? But these are instincts. But the choices that we make are based on our free will, are not based on instinct. And Spiritism teaches us that we, the spirits, are the ones in control of our destinies, that we, the spirits, are the ones that make the choices, and our physical body is just the instrument of our acts, our actions, that we cannot blame our physical body for anything that is a result of our own actions, because the physical body won't make us kill someone, or won't make us make other decisions that goes against our will. The physical body has its limitations, and it can be physically challenged by some inabilities that we may not possess, some shortcomings that our physical body can prevent us from acting on our full abilities. But we can never blame the physical body for anything that we do. We the spirits have our free will, and that's why he brings us Jesus, that tells us, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, meaning let us try not to listen to the spirits that are trying to influence us, to give us ideas that are not positive, because that's what's going to cause us to sometimes to commit mistakes. We are responsible for our actions. We cannot blame the obsessors. We cannot blame those that are surrounding us for the actions that the choices that we make. Of course, again, everything has a degree of responsibility. If you commit an act influenced by a spirit that wants to cause you harm, you are responsible, but there is a limit of your responsibility. There is a limitation because you receive a strong influence from a spirit, which is, when you are here on earth and you commit a crime, when you are not in possession of your mental abilities, you are condemned to go to a house of a hospice or something like that, right? Not to a prison, because you are considered to be unable to make decisions. So the responsibility is according to your knowledge, to how much you know. But we're almost there. So someone raised their hand. Yes.
Yes, that was me, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi. So I agree with everything you said, but I'm wondering, but I think it would still be fair to say that the physical is an influence, or, has some kind of input. And I'm thinking of like people with phobias, or even like maybe children who are raised in an abusive environment where they're exposed to, people physically fighting, that they react or respond. And even like little children that maybe they might not have memory of that, but that's going to have an influence on
yes,
their reaction. So I mean, that's fair to say.
Yes, but in the end, all the traumas are in the spirit, right? So
yes,
the body is just the instrument. So you are going to act through your physical body, but the spirit is the one that acts always, right? The idea here is we cannot blame the physical body for anything.
I get that when you're saying blame, but I would say you can't dismiss the material effect or influence.
No, you cannot. No.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, it's because we cannot separate the physical body from the spirit. We are one, right? The physical body is the instrument that we use. So there are reactions that comes from the spirit, and the physical body is the one that acts, right? But what Kardec is trying to say here is that our common notion that I hate him and I'm strong, and that's why I cause harm because I'm strong. Well, the decision to hit him is in the spirit, right? It's not the physical body.
I understand. I think the key word is blame, like to say that, you know, the body, you know, like we can't help it because like the, you know, my body made me do it or whatever, or
Yes.
I am who I am, you know, because I'm just even thinking, I'm thinking a lot of people who are like trauma victims where, you know, and it's usually repeated exposure, and they like develop certain pathways in their brain. And so it takes a lot of like, you know, therapy and
Yes.
whatever to like, yeah. So I'm just thinking that the
No,
body certainly plays an influence.
the body has a role, right? If you think
Yeah,
of someone that has an accident and damages the brain, right?
right.
So the physical brain is damaged, so the spirit cannot act through like it would. So there is a consequence for of the damage to the physical body. But again, the idea here is that in the end, the decisions, the choices are always in the spirit that may not be able to execute due to the limitations of the physical body. But
That's right.
it's never the physical body overpowering the spirit to do something or not to do something.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Again, I think blame is a good word to use because
Yeah.
it helps us because we like to blame.
We
Okay.
love
Thank you.
others, right? Yes. So we went over a little bit, so we have to stop here. If someone has anything pressing, you can ask, or otherwise. So before I ask Carol to do our final prayer, just a couple of reminders. This Saturday at 11 a.m. we continue to have the series of lectures promoted by the United States Spirits Federation. The title of the lecture is Contributions of Spiritism to Science, or Contributions of Allan Kardec to Science. And the speaker is Dr. Jorge Dyer, and he's a physician in Brazil. He's a very a scholar of spiritism, and I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting presentation. I saw what he brings for us, that for those that like science and the combination of spiritism and science, I highly recommend you to watch it. So it's Saturday 11 a.m. It's in English, and you can watch it through the Facebook or YouTube of the United States Spiritist Federation. Okay, and the link is on our email that you should all be receiving. If you're not receiving our emails, please raise your hand. I included you, Leon. I don't know why you're not. I'll ask again. And on this Sunday at 11 a.m., we are going to study On the Way to the Light. That's the book we study on the third Sunday of the month. Julio will be conducting the studies. And so we are all invited on our regular Zoom platform this Sunday at 11 a.m. Okay? And I think that's it for us here. Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, sure, certainly. Infinite Creator, Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful for the opportunity this evening to be together, to receive the blessings, the teachings, and the commentaries of the Spirit's book. We are grateful to our spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, the guides, and those who are helping us and assisting us to have a better understanding of these lessons. We are truly grateful for the opportunity that we share this evening. May we continue throughout the week with our prayers, with our studies, with our mindfulness, putting into practice the lessons that we have learned throughout the week. We are truly grateful for what we have received and the blessings that continue to flow to and through us. We are grateful for our safety, our protection, and our good health. May we continue with this great study. May we continue to share these lessons with others as they are able to receive through our discernment. And as we close this portion of the meeting this evening, May we continue to ask for guidance. May we receive the guidance with great gratitude. And may we continue to share the lessons of Spiritism wherever and whenever possible. May we go forth now, and as we close this portion, go forth as beacons of light. So be it.